Undercover CEO found his new cashier crying in the break room. What she said next broke him. The soft hum of the soda machine filled the otherwise still air. As Ethan stood quietly beneath the flickering yellow light of the break room, he had only meant to grab a bottle of water, but something stopped him cold at the doorway, a sound he hadn't expected. Crying, not loud, but muffled, raw, real. Curled up on the worn brown couch near the lockers sat a young woman, her shoulders hunched forward, arms wrapped tight around herself like she was holding the pieces in. Her blonde hair clung to tear-streaked cheeks, strands catching the dull light like broken gold. Ethan hesitated, then stepped in slowly. "Why are you crying in here all alone?" he asked softly, his voice careful, gentle. The woman flinched and straightened up. She wiped at her face quickly, but didn't meet his eyes. Her voice, when it came, was steady but hollow. "If you'd just lost your mum and still had to smile at strangers all day, you'd cry too." Ethan froze. He hadn't expected that. He'd walked in looking for water and found someone else's grief instead. "I'm so sorry," he murmured. She shook her head like she'd heard that 100 times already. Her eyes, though dry now, looked somewhere far away. Her uniform was a little rumpled, her name tag pinned on crooked Lisa dot. He glanced toward the mini fridge, but stayed where he was. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortably, was heavy, honest. Normally, he would have backed off, given her space. But not this time. "I'm Ethan," he said simply, offering his name like a bridge across the quiet. Lisa looked up at him now, really looked, measuring, trying to decide whether he was just another guy who'd forget. She cried the minute he walked away. After a moment, she said, "Lisa." He wanted to say more, to offer something solid, but all that came out was, "Do you want to be alone?" She shrugged without conviction. "Doesn't matter. I've got 5 minutes left." He followed her gaze to the break room clock. She was right. In just 5 minutes, she'd be back at her register, ringing up customers. Like her whole world hadn't just fallen apart. Ethan sat down quietly on the bench across from her. "I didn't mean to intrude. I know what it's like to lose someone." Lisa blinked, surprised, but she didn't interrupt. "It's hard to explain to people who haven't felt it," Ethan continued. "They think a few days off is enough. Cry it out, then move on, like grief has a deadline." Lisa gave a dry, bitter laugh. "Exactly," he nodded. "They move on and assume you have too." For a moment, she looked like she might respond, but then her eyes dropped to the floor, her foot tapping softly as if counting down the seconds until she had to put her mask back on again. Ethan watched her closely. There was something in her quiet, not weakness, but strength. He had known grief. He'd stared it down in the mirror. But this was different. Hers was still raw, still bleeding. But she was here anyway. The kind of person who breaks in silence, but still shows up. He stood slowly. "If you ever need to talk," he said gently, "or not talk, I'm around." Lisa didn't reply, but as he turned to leave, he caught the smallest shift in her eyes. She was watching him not with curiosity or fear, but with something deeper. Recognition, the kind of glance one soldier gives another across a battlefield. Back in the store's bright overhead lights, Ethan felt the weight of that room still, sitting in his chest. It wasn't just her sorrow that stayed with him. It was the quiet courage it took to carry it so well. 10 years earlier, Ethan Hale had founded Ethan Mart, a grocery chain that quickly became a rising star in the retail world. But few people knew why he started it. The idea wasn't born in a boardroom. It was born in a dim kitchen, beside a worn-out woman. His mother, Elaine Hale, had been a single mum and cashier working long shifts, bringing home tired smiles, and somehow still managing to tuck him into bed with warmth in her voice. She taught him that kindness wasn't a courtesy. It was a responsibility. She never lived to see his success, but Ethan made her a promise that he'd build something better for people like her. When he opened the very first Ethan Mart at 25, it wasn't just about groceries. It was about dignity, paid sick leave, real couches in break rooms, decent hours, respect, and for a while, it worked. The company thrived, and so did the heart that built it. But as time passed, and expansion took over more stores, more executives, more investors, something shifted. Reports still looked good. Profits climbed, but turnover spiked. Words like efficiency and cost reduction began replacing care and culture. Then one day, a letter appeared on Ethan's desk, anonymous, but brutally honest. It came from a veteran store manager. "You started something good," it read, "but we don't feel it anymore. You built this company with heart, but now it feels like the heart is gone." Ethan read that letter 3 times. That night, he didn't sleep. He thought back to being a boy again, watching his mother cry in their tiny kitchen after getting scolded at work for giving a free sandwich to a hungry man. He had promised himself then, "If I ever run something, no one will be punished for being kind." But now, sitting in a high-rise office overlooking the skyline, he wasn't sure he'd kept that promise. The decision came quickly, but not out of panic. If he wanted the truth, he wouldn't find it behind a polished desk and a $1,000 suit. He needed to see it for himself, up close, so he went undercover. No cameras, no media, no assistants, just Ethan J., another name on a new hire form. He picked store number 4080A, quiet suburban location, far from corporate eyes, started at the bottom, night shift, back room, stocking shelves, scrubbing floors, taking out the trash, and that's how, on a cold Wednesday evening, Ethan found himself mopping the back aisle of a grocery store he had built from nothing. Arms sore, collar damp, ignored by customers, nodded at by co-workers, and for the first time in years, he felt real again. No title, no privilege, just a man standing face to face with the culture he had created, or maybe the one he had lost. He wiped his hands on a towel and said, "I made a promise." Then everything changed. Then wiped his hands on a folded towel, his eyes scanning the long stretch of dim grocery aisles. "I made a promise," he murmured, under his breath, "and I need to know if I broke it." Nights at store 48 were slower, quieter, but that's when the truth had room to breathe. Without the chaos of daytime, the noise, the customers in a rush, there was something strangely human about those late hours, honest, bare, and that's when he started to notice her. Lisa, register 3, always the closing shift, barely spoke unless spoken to. She was young, maybe mid-20s, pale skin and long blonde hair tied loosely back. But that wasn't what caught Ethan's attention. It was her eyes. Not sad, exactly, but still, like someone who had made peace with a pain too old to fix. Lisa didn't fake cheer. Her kindness wasn't for show. When an elderly man came up short by $2, she reached into her own pocket without blinking and told him not to worry. When a toddler knocked over a display and the young mother looked ready to cry, Lisa knelt down quietly and helped clean it up. pouring a calm word like it was the most natural thing in the world. She never made a scene, never expected thanks. And yet, she never smiled with her whole face. Ethan started watching her not out of curiosity, but with a kind of reverence, the way she held the counter a moment longer after a rude customer, the way she laughed politely, then turned away quickly like she was afraid her real face might show. He noticed her shoulders tense as she walked down the back hallway toward the break room, glancing over her shoulder once before disappearing. Behind the swinging door, that was the first time Ethan wondered, what is she carrying? It wasn't infatuation, not yet. It was something deeper, recognition. He saw in her the quiet resilience of someone who keeps going, not because they're strong, but because they don't have a choice. Ethan had spent a week now unloading boxes, pushing carts, and cleaning sticky messes. His muscles ached in places he'd forgotten existed. But nothing unsettled him like Lisa, this girl who wore grief like it was stitched into her uniform. One night, as he passed by her register at closing time, a woman snapped at her of double scanning an item. Lisa apologized, fixed the mistake, and handed her the receipt with hands as steady as glass. But Ethan saw it. That smile she wore, it was paper thin. Her eyes were somewhere far away. That's when he understood whatever pain she carried wasn't fresh. It was old, familiar, like a coat you wear so long you forget it used to be heavy. Later that night, Ethan sat alone in the break room, staring at the floor. Why does she stay here? He thought of his mother, of the way she smiled through exhaustion, through heartbreak, of what she once told him, some people give more than they should, because they're scared no one else will. He looked toward the break room door where Lisa had vanished earlier. She's not just another cashier, he thought. She's something else, something I need to understand. And from that moment on, Ethan began to pay attention, not out of suspicion, but out of respect. He didn't know what it was yet, but whatever lived inside her, it was going to change everything. The break room door creaked gently as Ethan pushed it open, expecting silence. But there she was again. Lisa sat on the edge of the old couch, elbows resting on her knees, clutching a worn photograph in both hands, her shoulders hunched forward, like she was holding herself up by willpower alone. She didn't look at him, but she didn't ask him to leave either. "I'm sorry," Ethan said gently from the doorway. "I didn't mean to interrupt." She shook her head, just a little. Her hands trembled as she clutched the photo tighter. "It's fine," she whispered. "I just needed a moment." Ethan stepped in and quietly sat on the bench across from her. He didn't speak, didn't ask questions. He knew whatever balance kept her from falling apart, he didn't want to tip it. Lisa stared down at the photo. Her voice came low, brittle, like it had cracked from the inside. "I've been messing up at the register. I keyed in the wrong price twice. Forgot to bag a woman's produce. She yelled at me in front of everyone." Ethan stayed quiet. "Couldn't even look her in the eye," Lisa said. "I wanted to say sorry, I really did, but the words just got stuck." She clenched her jaw, her eyes still fixed on the picture in her hands. "I asked the manager for one more day off," she said after a long pause. "Just one." Her voice dropped even lower. "He said if I miss 2 days in a month, I'll be cut from the schedule." Ethan felt his fists tighten, but he didn't speak. This wasn't about his feelings, it was about hers. "I can't lose this job," she said, her voice breaking. "My little brother, he's only 6. He needs food, a roof, clothes. I'm all he has now." She stopped, breath catching in her throat. Then, with a trembling whisper, she added, "He keeps asking about her." Ethan felt his stomach twist. "Every night. How's Mum today? Did she see my drawing? Is she still tired?" Lisa's hands came up to her face, hiding it, as her shoulders curled inward like the weight had finally caught up with her. "I can't tell him," she choked out behind her hands. "She was just a cashier. Until he found out who she really was, I can't be the one to tell him." Lisa's voice was barely a whisper, brittle around the edges. "He draws her pictures every week. I pretend to mail them. Pretend she's just too tired to write back." She looked down, hands clasped in her lap. "Every night I lie," she said, "and every morning I cry before he wakes up." Ethan's chest ached. There weren't any words for this. No comfort big enough to carry the weight she was holding. "I'm scared," Lisa continued, her hands slowly lowering from her face. Her eyes were red, but dry now, like the tears had dried up from too many nights like this. "I'm scared that when he finds out, he'll stop smiling." She looked at Ethan fully then. "That he'll lose the last piece of her I have left." The silence in the break room swelled like a storm cloud, thick and pressing. Ethan didn't know what to say, so he just sat with her in it. Lisa gave a bitter little laugh. "I feel like I'm breaking," she said, "but I don't have time to break." Ethan nodded slowly, barely audible. "You shouldn't have to carry this alone." Lisa gave a hollow smile. "But I do, that's the thing. No one else is going to step in. If I fall apart, everything falls apart with me." She leaned back against the couch, the photograph resting on her lap now. Ethan glanced down at it. 3 faces smiling. A boy with a gapped tooth grin beamed from the middle. "That him?" Ethan asked softly. Lisa nodded. "Tommy. He doesn't even know what grief is yet. And I'm doing everything I can to keep it that way for just a little longer." They sat together for a moment. No words, just the hum of the vending machine, the distant buzz of fluorescent lights, and the soft tick of the break room clock. Ethan wanted to tell her she'd be okay, that things would get better, but he didn't, because sometimes the only thing you can offer is presence. She wiped her sleeve across her face and stood slowly. "I should get back," she said, her voice quiet but steadier now. Ethan stood. "Too, if you ever need anything, just say the word." She didn't respond right away. Then she gave the slightest nod and walked out, photo still in hand. And Ethan stood in the stillness, knowing something had changed. He had seen pain before, but not like this. This wasn't just struggle. It was something sacred. She wasn't broken. She was blazing. Later that night, the store was slow. Aisles stretched out like long, empty roads. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Ethan wiped down a shelf near the frozen section. He glanced up, saw her, Lisa, kneeling in the next aisle by the soup display. Her movements were mechanical, sharp. She stacked cans with methodical care, but there was no energy behind it. Her eyes looked ahead, unfocused. He hesitated, then crouched beside her. "Need a hand?" She looked up, surprised, then gave a small, tired smile. "I'm good," she said, "just keeping busy." Ethan nodded, and without another word, began stacking cans beside her. Sometimes that helps. A pause, not uncomfortable, just quiet. Then Lisa spoke, soft and unexpected. "You ever meet someone, just once, but they changed everything?" Ethan blinked. "Yeah," he said. "I think I have." Lisa nodded slowly. "My mum used to say, that there was someone like that for her. Ethan turned toward her, curious. She was driving late, Lisa said. 10 years ago, it was raining. Hard. Her car spun off the road into a ditch. She was trapped, terrified. Her voice softened, as if speaking something holy. She said a young man stopped, mid-20s maybe, pulled her out, drove her to the hospital, argued with the nurses to get her seen faster. Ethan froze. Lisa looked down, eyes distant. She never got his full name. He just said it was Jonathan. Jonathan Hale. The name hit Ethan like a punch to the chest. No, that wasn't just a name. That was his name. Before the change. Before he started over. Before he became Ethan Hale. He remembered it all now. The rain, the wreck, the woman trapped in the driver's seat. He'd broken the window, pulled her out, driven her straight to the ER, waited with her, fought the front desk. For immediate care. She'd thanked him over and over. He'd said it was nothing and walked away. That was 10 years ago. Now, here he was, listening to her daughter. She always called him her angel, Lisa said softly. She said he didn't just save her body, he reminded her that good still exists. Lisa reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, folded paper. The edges were worn soft. She wrote this, she said, but never sent it. She kept it beside her bed, always. She held it out. Ethan took it, hands trembling. It was addressed to the young man who pulled me from the wreckage. He unfolded the letter with care. You may never know what you did for me that night. But you didn't just save my body. You saved my belief in people, in decency, in good. If my daughter ever meets you again, I hope she sees what I saw, heart that didn't hesitate. If I'm gone by then, please know you gave me more than one night of life. You gave me 10 more years with my children. Elaine Cartry Lane. The name lit up every corner of Ethan's memory. It really was her. He looked up at Lisa, this strong, quiet woman who had carried so much grief and so much fire. And he saw her now through new eyes. She had been there that night, 14 years old, blonde ponytail, sitting in the EU hallway with a coloring book in her lap, eyes full of fear. He remembered her now, and she had no idea the man from her mother's story, the angel her mum spoke of, was sitting right in front of her. Are you okay? Lisa asked, noticing the sudden stillness in his face. Ethan looked up, blinked, swallowed hard. Yeah, he said, carefully folding the letter and offering it back. That's a powerful letter. Lisa smiled faintly. She believed people like him were rare. People who did good and didn't want anything back. Ethan nodded slowly, his voice low. Sounds like he left a mark. Lisa's eyes shimmered. He did. She tucked the letter away, stood, brushed off her pants. Ethan remained on the floor, still caught between memory and the moment. Could it really be her? The little girl who once drew him a picture of an angel in crayon and thanked him for saving her mum. And if it was, what was he supposed to do now? Because fate had brought them together again, and this time, he wasn't walking away. Some songs are meant to be remembered, just like some people. He didn't sign it. He couldn't, not yet. It wasn't time. The package arrived on a quiet Thursday. Lisa had just returned home from a long shift, her shoes soaked from rain, her eyes ringed with exhaustion. Tommy was asleep on the couch, curled around a worn stuffed bear, cartoons still playing at low volume. She hadn't noticed the box at first. It sat on the counter, plain and brown, with no return address, just her name. She opened it slowly, wary. Inside, nestled in soft fabric, was the music box. The wood was pale, smooth to the touch, and when she lifted the lid, the melody began to play. She froze. It was the lullaby. Her lullaby, the one her mother used to hum while brushing her hair after a bath. The one she whispered when Lisa had fevers or cried from nightmares. Lisa hadn't heard it in years, hadn't dared to sing it, even when Tommy asked. It had felt too close, too fragile, too lost, and now, here it was. Her breath caught. The melody wasn't identical. It was richer, layered with new chords, but still hers, still theirs. Beneath the piano, her own humming drifted faintly, ghost-like, woven into the song like memory itself. She listened in silence, one hand over her mouth, the other gripping the edge of the counter. How? She looked at the note again. Unfamiliar handwriting. No signature, no clues. Just those words. Some songs are meant to be remembered, just like some people. That night, she didn't sleep. She sat by the window while the box played again and again, its soft song barely loud enough to wake the boy in the next room. Her mind raced with questions, but no answers came. Just one certainty. Someone out there knew. Someone remembered. And somehow, without asking anything, they were giving her pieces of her mother back. Back at the store, Ethan watched her more quietly than before. He didn't linger, didn't pry, but he saw the shift. Lisa moved through the aisles with a little more calm. Her shoulders, once hunched from invisible weight, carried just a little higher. Her smile, though still faint, now touched. Her eyes once in a while. She had started wearing her hair down more often. A small thing. But he noticed. She had noticed too something was changing. The boxes, the music, the notes. They were small miracles. Not loud, not flashy, gentle, thoughtful, like a hand reaching through the fog to steady her when she wobbled. And though she still didn't know who it was, some nights she whispered thank you into the silence, as if hoping whoever it was might hear her. One night, as they closed the store together, Lisa lingered at her register after the last customer left. Ethan was wiping down the belt beside her, quietly. She spoke without looking at him. "Do you believe in angels?" she asked, her voice casual, but there was something just under it. He hesitated, then answered, "I used to." She nodded slowly. "I think maybe I do again." Ethan looked at her. Her face was turned away, but the profile of it in the soft store light was calm, resigned, but not defeated, and in that moment he realized he didn't need her to know. Not yet. The truth would come when it needed to, if it needed to. But for now, he could be what her mother had once been to him, a quiet force in the dark, holding up the pieces when someone else couldn't. He smiled faintly and said, "Then maybe they believe in you too." Lisa turned, and for the first time in weeks, her smile reached all the way up on a quiet evening. Just as the city lights flickered on, Ethan left one last gift, a small envelope, no return address. Tucked beneath Lisa's door, inside, a simple card. "For nights when the silence gets too loud, she's still with you." There was no name, just words, just warmth. But Ethan wasn't finished. There was still one final piece of the past he had kept close for 10 years. A folded crayon sketch faded now, but still full of life. A child's drawing of an angel, smiling under a golden halo. Wings slightly uneven, lines a little shaky, but bursting with gratitude. "Thank you, handsome man, for saving my mum. Lisa, he took it to a framing shop downtown. Asked for museum-grade glass. No extra flourishes, just care, just preservation. And at the bottom of the frame, he had a single line engraved in gold script. Kept, always. When it was ready, he had it wrapped in soft tissue and delivered quietly to the store. No sender, no note, just a label. Lisa's staff locker. That evening, Ethan sat in the break room, pretending to check inventory as the shift manager handed her the package. He watched from the corner of his eye. Lisa peeled the paper slowly, her brow furrowed with curiosity, till suddenly she stopped. The color drained from her face. She stared at the framed drawing, her own handwriting, her own childlike lettering. A moment from a lifetime ago, suddenly alive again. She sank onto the couch without a word, clutching the frame as if it were a lifeline. Fingers trembling, breath caught. And then, who? Her voice was barely above a whisper. Who would keep this for 10 years? Ethan didn't move. He let her sit with it. Let the moment breathe. Tears streamed down her cheeks, unguarded, unashamed. The kind of tears that only come when grief and gratitude collide. She wasn't just holding a drawing. She was holding proof that someone, somewhere, had remembered her mother, had remembered her. It wasn't just a memory, it was validation. It was love, quiet, unseen, but real. 1 week later, word spread quickly. Every employee at store 48 had been asked to gather after closing. Cashiers, stockers, janitors, no one knew why. The conference room buzzed with low murmurs. Lisa sat quietly in the back, the music box still tucked into her bag. Then, the store manager stepped aside and introduced a special guest from corporate. Heads turned. Ethan stepped forward. But this time, no uniform, no clipboard, just a blazer, jeans, and a quiet smile. He picked up the mic. "Hey," he began. "Most of you know me as Ethan J., the guy in the stockroom who still can't wrap a pallet right." Laughter rippled through the room. He smiled, then paused. "But that's not my full name. I'm Ethan Hale, founder of Ethan Mart." Gasps. Lisa froze. Ethan continued. 10 years ago, I started this company from nothing. I came back undercover because I needed to know, does this place still have the heart it was built on? He looked around the room. I found my answer in a cashier named Lisa. All eyes turned. Lisa's breath caught. "I met her long before she ever knew my name," Ethan said, his voice softer now. "Years ago, I helped a woman after a car accident. She had kids. One of them gave me a drawing of an angel. The little girl is here in this room." Lisa's hands rose to her mouth. "Lisa," he said gently, "you reminded me what matters. That strength doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just shows up every day and keeps going." She stood slowly, shaking. "Starting today," Ethan said, turning back to the room, "this company is going to change. Better wages, real mental health support, new programs to help single parents, and dignity for every single person who walks through our doors." Applause thundered. But Lisa barely heard it. Ethan stepped off the stage and walked. Straight to her, he reached for her hand. "You called me a guardian angel once," he said, voice low. "But truth is, you saved me." Lisa was crying now, tears streaming freely. "Loved you quietly," Ethan said. "Not for who you wanted to be, but for who you are. For the way you never stopped believing in good, even when the world gave you every reason not to." He exhaled. "I love you, Lisa. Not because you need saving, but because you reminded me how to live." She didn't respond with words. She stepped into him, arms wrapped around his chest, strong, certain, soft, and whispered simply, "Yes, after the storm." They didn't need fancy dinners or luxury weekends. That first weekend, they walked through her neighborhood, hand in hand, shared tacos from a food truck, laughed under flickering streetlights. For the first time in a long time, Lisa felt free, like her soul could breathe again. Ethan didn't check his phone, didn't think about work. He just held her hand like it meant something. One afternoon, they visited the cemetery. Lisa brought white daisies, her mother's favorite. Tommy placed a fresh drawing on the headstone, a crayon angel with 3 figures underneath. Ethan knelt beside the boy. "I didn't know your mum the way you did," he said, "but I know she'd be proud of both of you." Tommy looked up. "Do you think she knows?" Ethan nodded. "She knows." Then he whispered toward the stone, "I promise. I'll take care of them, as long as I live." Lisa stood behind them, silent, her eyes shining. When Ethan rose, he took her hand in his dot, and together, the 3 stood beneath the breeze and wildflowers, quietly anchored to something unspoken but whole. What began with a drawing ended in a promise built not from grand gestures, but from the quiet moments of love, the small acts of faith, and the kind of hope that refuses to quit. Ethan found purpose again. Lisa found someone she could lean on, and Tommy found the one person who would never walk away. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of your own quiet heroes, or the power of unseen kindness, please consider subscribing to Midnight English. Stories. We don't just tell stories. We tell the ones that stay with you. Like, share, subscribe. And until next time, may your heart be kind and your soul forever stirred.